Hey guys, how you doing? Check my hat. Okay. Why am I wearing a mask? Okay. We're going to be working with adding and subtracting decimals and fractions. And there's oftentimes said we're going to borrow or steal from other numbers. So ha ha ha, right? There's the bandit mask. Okay, so I've got change behind me because it's a good example of pieces or parts of things. That's all fractions and decimals are. They're not a whole thing. It's like a cookie or a sandwich. You know if you're getting the whole thing or not, right? So coins are a fraction of the dollar bills or the larger bills. So we normally write coins as decimal. So you could say 1.73, it's $1.73, $1.73. Okay, so it's a decimal. They sometimes will say it as a fraction, like I have $4.75. That means 3/4 of another dollar. You know, it's three of the big coins. This one, there we go. Three of the big coins. Uh, 3/4 is a fraction, or I have $2.50. Okay, that's a half. All right, those are fractions. So we're going to be looking at adding and subtracting. Now remember, what are we supposed to remind Mr. Douglas? Don't forget to share your screen. Sometimes I make 3 or 4 videos and I didn't share screen. I got to keep remaking them. Okay, so here's what we're doing today, guys. We are going to be working with the operations of addition and subtraction. I don't know if you can see this toolbar. All I really want to do is move it. There we go. Get it out of the way. Adding and subtracting decimals and fractions, and just reminding ourselves some of the rules of positives and negatives. I underlined the negative because that causes a lot of issues. Even at the end of the year, I still have some of my big brain students mess up a little bit with negatives, whether it's math fatigue or just we don't do it enough. We want to definitely do some more practice. So let's come over here real quick and let's do a quick reminder of same sign. And I believe I have my text. So let's say we had 7 plus, actually I have to do this 3 first. Let's do 3 plus 7. You guys know that's 10, right? But then where people start to get confused a little bit is if I had 3 minus 7. So we try to use the rule same sign, different sign. And I'm going to write some stuff about that and type some too. And what we're trying to do in class is think of it as situations, because sometimes people don't see this as the same sign, okay? What you'd prefer to see maybe, what did you guys go? Cut that out. Okay, is maybe like this. Now you can say, oh, the 3 and the 7 have the same sign. But what's going on down here? This is where people get confused, okay? So I'm going to put some spaces in here and just try to make a little more sense of it. We're going to talk about different strategies we use and how you can think of these problems. But all you're doing on all of these, this is -3, and we're going further negative, more negative, so it's going to be -10. Space, so you can see that. And this is the exact same problem here as well. Okay, so I'm going to draw some on the number line and make some comments so you can see what we're talking about, okay? Draw. Let's go with blue. Bing. Okay, let's go a little smaller so we can see it. All right. Well, actually I wanted to go green for a reason. That's why I had that there. I'm sorry, I forgot. In class, what we were doing is I was trying to break I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We would break these up, and I would say, you know what, guys? I apologize. Draw. Give me one more chance. Okay, here we go, draw. Before we get the answer of -10, we were drawing a rectangle around the numbers, and you put a door after the first number. Now, I would prefer to see that plus sign there. So one last adjustment, because my writing utensil is a little too thick there. There we go. Grace. Okay. Thank you for your patience. All right, here we go. So I said, let's make boxes around these situations. And let's think of the situations. Two things are happening. Okay, now if you want, if they're numbers that don't have fractions and decimals, I can always cheat. And I can make 3 negative counters, okay, and 7 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay, and put circles around them. Then you count them up. Oh, now I got 10 negatives, okay. So you could do that, or you could do a number line, okay. So the first number is where they tell you to start. So no, in both of these examples, I have a -3. So let's say the -3 is right here. Then what are they doing? They're saying, and go -7 more, or -7. Either way, it's a negative situation. You're going to go more negative, okay? Now you can think, I'm trying to get my students to think about, an important thing about math is trying to apply these numbers to real world situations. So forgive me if these don't appeal to you, but the ones I use a lot is money, candy, snacks, you know, toys, whatever, okay? So you owe somebody $3 for something, okay? Now, in addition to that, that's the first one I have in the box. In addition to that, you're now going to owe them $7, okay, from whatever, okay? So they bought you a drink and they just bought you a big meal. So you owe them $3, and in addition to that, you're going to owe them 7. Or you could say, you're going to owe me $3 and another 7. Okay, now I said the word "and" there, but basically they're paying for another thing. So they're subtracted. Somebody took $3 from you, and now they're going to take $7 from you. So either way, it ends up being a -2. So try to think of that as a situation, because we say same sign, different sign, and some people get stuck. Now there's a way to change the subtraction problem to an addition problem, and you can see same sign, different sign better. So I'll show you that next. But I just wanted you to see that you can just up front say situation. It's a negative situation, and it's getting more negative, okay? Then obviously if it said -3 plus 7, then it would be getting better. But since it's -7, we're gonna bunny hop 5, 6, 7. I think I did 7 or 8. Let me see. Oh, yeah, it looks like 7. So then you end up, wherever you end up is your answer, okay? All right, so you could think of it as situations, if that helps. Worst case scenario, anytime you have a subtraction, we got to change that. Let's change it to addition, okay? So I'm gonna switch colors just every time I do a new little different thing here. So let's do -2 minus 9, okay? So I've been using green mostly in class, so I'll do that again to make the little box. You make a box around the situation, and you can do that, okay? Now you can look at that and say, oh, it's taking 2 of my dollars and it's taking another 9. Okay, so it's 2 negative situations, so it's same sign situation. But there is a strategy, and I'm gonna go back to red. There is a strategy that's called different things. Keep, change, opposite. Keep, change, change. Those are the 2 most popular ones. Some people, you throw keep, change, flip in there. That's really, we like to use that for division. So anyway, I like to say keep, change, opposite, okay? So what you do is you put the K under the first digit, you put the C under the operation, and you put the O under the number. Now what happens is you rewrite the problem as -2, you change the minus to a plus, and now the 9, instead of being a +9, is a -9, okay? So now through keep, change, opposite, now you can see they have the same sign. So if that's a struggle for you, you change it to an addition problem first through keep, change, opposite, because subtraction is really the same thing as adding the opposite. Oh, that sounds like something we should type. Let's see, where's my cursor? Cursor? Adding the opposite. So because of that, we're going to use, and I'll put it up here, KCO or KCC, it's the same thing. Keep, change, opposite. Okay. All right. Or I'll put change because you're just changing it. Okay. So you keep the first number, change the math operation from subtraction to addition, and then you change the number from a positive number to a negative number. So that can help you in any of those situations. And one of the other negative situations, what's worse than a negative? A double negative. But actually, that's not so bad. Okay, so let me show you this one. -3 minus parentheses -7. Okay, I like to use the same numbers a lot. So we see them in various different methods or stages. Okay, so here again, I could, see if I did my little green box around this, I'm still going to be in a situation where I'm like, whoa, it's telling me to minus a negative, or what it really means is do the opposite of minus, or keep change opposite would help us make this look more understandable. I shared a little strategy or trick that my teachers told me, but the problem doesn't always show up this way. So if it does, let me write it 2 more times. Oops, gotta have that 7 in there. Okay. And we have a program called IXL, and on IXL, let's go with purple. On IXL program we do for homework and such, they would write that as -3 minus, and they put a little dinky, oh, actually, yeah, they would have done that on the first one too. I apologize. They put their negatives up on top of the front of the number, so like that. So, and if people do this on their phone or their iPad, sometimes it's so small, they think it's a speck on their screen, so you got to be careful with that. So, if it shows like that, then you may not remember this one little trick. But one of the things I was always shown, my math teacher, one of them, I don't even remember which one, to be honest with you, he said, doesn't that look like a giant plus sign? And I apologize. Let me do that one more time. I think you all know what I'm talking about. Draw, erase. Okay, I'm going to zoom. And that highlighter was really thicker than I was going for there. Okay, let's do this. The parentheses and the 2 subtractions together looks like they make a giant plus sign. So he would just say anytime you see that, you just change it to giant plus sign. However, that doesn't account for this situation over here. Okay, so these are more great opportunities to use the KCC. Let me go back to the red again because that's what we used a minute ago. So you would just write KCC or KCO. I said KCC. I personally like to call it keep change opposite. Okay. So you're going to keep the -3. You're going to change the subtraction to a positive. And you're going to do the opposite of -3. So it's really saying -3 plus 7. Same thing over here. -3, keep, change the minus to a plus, and do the opposite of 7. That doesn't make sense. How can you just go from a negative situation to a positive situation? Because they're really not telling you to subtract. So last thing I want to say about this is we're going to just write this word double negative, okay? It's like saying don't not do your homework. If I said that, that's a double negative in the English language. That's not proper English. That's not the way you're supposed to speak. You're saying, you're actually canceling out what you think the first negative is intending. They cancel each other out. And it's kind of used for effect or being sarcastic a lot of times. Don't not do your homework. Don't not eat your dinner before going to bed. So those are some of the examples I've used in class. So really, it means the opposite. So that's what they're saying. Don't subtract. It's the opposite of -7. Okay. So that's why that works that way. Okay. So that covers double negatives. So because of that, you can always see if it's the same sign or negative, it's a different sign. The whole goal here And I'm sorry, because I made the assumption. We've been doing same sign, different sign for 2 weeks now, and there's just been a lot of confusions on, I don't know the percentage of class, but a lot of little mistakes being made in class. So same sign sum, different sign diff, or difference. Let's just write it out. I like to abbreviate a lot, okay? So if they have the same signs, if it was 3 plus 7 like original, or if I had -3 plus -7, or worst case scenario, they try to trick me and they go with -3 minus a -7. Okay, these are all going to end up being, oh, whoa, no, that changed to a plus. Nope, that doesn't work. Scratch that, forget that. The only other one, which I haven't seen written, but it would mean the same thing. There we go. So the very last one, people a lot of times will say, well, that's subtraction, and it's a +7. So the +7 is different than the -3. So on that one, you could use the KCO to see the difference. So you go K, oh, then you get -3 plus -7. Now you can see they're the same sign, okay? So the same sign rule, you just add them together and you keep the same sign, okay? Let's go back to cursor. Let's space this down a touch. So 1, add together, 2, keep same sign. So same sign sum. Sum means you're adding them together, okay? And you keep same sign. So if you have all positives, you guys already know that's +10, okay? And let me just, in case anybody goes back and look at this, we all know what these answers were. So now you're going from a -3 to more negatives, so -10. And this ends up being the same thing, -10. It looks funny, but it's the same thing, okay? So let's look at different sign. My hat stays on there good. I saw a couple times I got to the edge and it kind of disappears there, okay? So let's look at different sign real quick. On different sign, you find the difference. Cursor, boy, the cursor likes to hide on me. Okay, so for a different sign, all you do is 1, subtract. Now we could throw in vocabulary words, and if everybody's not 100% learned that yet or anything, it gets a little confusing. So we just like to say subtract, and we do the big number, and I like to call it digit, because I'm not talking about the symbol that's in front of it. I'm not talking about the value, whether it's a positive or negative. We'll just do the big digit, and I can see that's going to go over to the, bleed over to the next line. Copy. Big digit minus the small digit, okay, or number. Let's just take the number sign out of there. I think you guys know what I mean, but when you say number, some people include the symbol. Okay, lastly, number 2. Once you do that, you keep the bigger digit symbol. So, for example, hold on, this page is spacing all over the place. Okay, so for example, do you have more positives? Then you're going to have a positive answer. More negatives, you're going to have a negative answer. Okay? You guys know this. If we were dealing with money and you were trying to buy something from somebody, you know if you have more negatives or more positives. If something costs more than you have money, then you don't have enough. You're short. You're negative. Okay? If you have $10 and it only costs $7, you know you're going to have a little left over. You're going to have a positive answer. Okay? All right, so that's the whole same sign, different sign, guys. The last thing I want to put on here, we're going to go to the next page. And just a couple reminders. You guys knew this last year. We just wanted to add this as a reminder for, let's go with blue. The whole point is we've been working with adding and subtracting positive and negative integers, which is like 3 and -7, like we just did. But we want to do, and I just jokingly call them rat numbers. They're rational numbers, okay? Just to save a little time. All year long, we abbreviate a lot of things. That's rational numbers, okay? That means decimals and fractions. So let's do a couple of those and we'll be done. So if you have the same, you just got to do the same sign, different sign. You got to continue to do that. If you have 2.01 minus 3.57, okay? And you say to yourself, I can't subtract what I don't have. So that means they're different signs. I have a positive 2.01 and I have a negative situation with the 3.57. So use a different sign difference. You guys, just keep looking at your notes until you remember different sign difference. You subtract the big digit minus small digit. So I'm going to take the 3.57 minus 2.01. We get a 6, a 5-er, and a 1. Now, is that my answer? I always try to, get my class. Good to go? Good to go? Well, there's a second step, sir. Oh, what's that? Keep the bigger digit symbol. Do you have more positives or negatives? Well, we had more negatives. And so in class, and it's harder to do, is quick here. I had more negatives, so I'm going to have a negative answer. So that's how you do that. So your answer is negative 1.56. Okay, so there's subtracting decimals. The one thing you got to remember, which you guys should have had a little bit last year, when you are subtracting decimals, don't forget you line up the decimals, okay? And your answer will have the decimal in the same location. Now, one caution there, sometimes you will have 1.0 and they'll say minus 0.00357. Okay, I don't know. Or I said 375, I mean 375. And so people are like, whoa, how do I line that up? Well, just like you said, you line it up by the decimal. So I would put minus 0.00375. Now I'm going to take the eraser. Come here, eraser. You know what? I need to use it with the cursor. It doesn't like to do that. There we go. Okay, that's how you'd line it up. And then you're like, well, how do I subtract that from the other? Well, then you just got to put zeros there. And you're going to borrow just like you would any other time, okay? So you got a bunch of zeros. You're going to borrow from this one. That's going to be a 0. That's going to be a 9. It's going to keep going. These are all going to be 9s because you keep borrowing 1 and subtracting 1 until you get to the very end there. 10 minus 5, 9 minus 7, 9 minus 3, 9, 9. Okay? And then that's step 1. You subtract the bigger number minus the smaller number. And then which number was bigger? You keep the bigger digit symbol. Well, I had a 1, and then I was subtracting the 0.00375. So it is going to be positive. And just one last thing here. This 1 was positive, so this answer is going to be positive. Okay, so let's look at fractions. Let's go with orange. I don't know how far I just went down. This goes pretty quick. Okay, with fractions, guys, if they're nice, I jokingly say, they will give you the same denomination. We always want to have least common denominators. Always write LCD, least common denominators. The bottoms have to be the same before you can add or subtract any fractions. So now once the bottoms are the same, then you can add across and you would, in this case, get 3 out of 3. And remember, you always want to try to simplify. 3 goes into 3 one time, so that's your answer. So let's go down. Let's look at more complicated situations. What if they said 7/8 minus 1/2? You cannot subtract that because you don't have the same denominators. So what I always say is first go to the biggest denominator and say, does the small one fit into that? And if it does, they're being kind of nice. You only have to change one fraction. Okay, yeah, it does. So I can change this 1/2 into 8ths on the bottom. What times 2 can get me to 8? 4. And whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So now 4/8, yeah, 4/8, that changes back to 1/2 if you simplify it. So now I do 7/8 minus, and just so you guys see where we're at here, go. I don't know why that always, technology issues. Okay, so this is what we started with, and we're subtracting, now we're subtracting this. We just changed it, okay? A lot of times I'll write it on a separate line. I wanted to show you how it changed. So 7 minus 4, we're going to end up with 3/8. Okay, if you can simplify at the end, you try to. In this case, we cannot. Okay, all right, let's look at mixed numbers. 3 and 1/4, and let's go minus 7 and last problem here. Let's make it 3/8. Okay, so first of all, my least common denominator is going to be 8. So I can change this 1/4. I need to have 8 on the bottom. So what times 4 gives me 8? Times 2, okay? So whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do the top. So 1 times 2 is 2. So I'm going to have 3 and 2/8 minus 7 and 3/8. Okay, so our last situation is borrowing from mixed numbers. I can't subtract 7 from 3, sir. There's not enough. Oh, okay. Well, is this same sign rule or different sign rule? So you can do one of two things. I can sit here and like we did in class, I can put it in green and I can make a rectangle around it. And I can say, okay, so this is a positive situation. And then what's somebody trying to do? Are they trying to give me more money or take more money away? It's a negative situation. So I have a positive situation and a negative situation. Okay, or I'm going to do one more. It's the last strategy you learned. Let's go back to red. You can do, if you don't like that, you need to change it to an addition problem. Okay, so I already saw with my green method making the box, it's going to be same different sign rule. Okay, and then we'll solve it. But if I KCO, I'm going to keep the 3 and 2/8. I change the minus subtract to addition, and I go to the opposite of 7 and 3/8. So it becomes a negative 7 and 3/8. Now you can see directly in front of both numbers. Is it same sign or different sign? Well, that's a positive 3 over there, and that's a negative 7. So now you see it's different sign rule. Different sign rule, I don't remember, always forget. Same sign sum, different sign difference. Okay, I joke and say we should say that 100 times each. Same sign sum, you just find the total, and then you keep same sign, difference. We need to subtract the bigger digit minus smaller digit, and then keep the symbol. So there's more negatives, I can tell you right now. There's more negatives than positives here. So my answer is going to be negative. That's the second step. But now they're telling me 7 and 3/8 and minus 3 and 2/8. Okay. So if I make my little total bar there, 3/8 minus 2/8, there's going to be 1/8 left, and 7 minus 3 is 4. And then I joke and say to my students, cool, good to go, bubble it in, A+. And they'll be like, well, wait, no, step 2 was, do you have more positives or more negatives in this problem? I just said that a second ago. Okay, there's more negatives. 7 is bigger. Let me just change it to highlighter and we're done. I usually do it with the highlighter. 7 is bigger, and so the negatives win. So my answer has to be negative 4 and 1/8. Okay, guys, that should give you everything you need to know to be successful on this test. Just remember, you want to try to simplify. I don't think they'll trick you and give you an answer of 4/8 and 1/2, and you have to know to simplify it, but always try to simplify. Always try to simplify, as my friend said in Harlingen. All right, guys, have a great day. Good job. And I always forget how to stop.